But I think that's the insidious nature of sweet, is it makes you want more sweet.
Yes.
And it doesn't care about what's rational. And your rational mind can recognize this conflict and lose. So I've been thinking a lot about diet, which will shock you. But I've been thinking about how I viewed diet as a kid. Mm-hmm. The thing about kids is you're very unsophisticated and you only know what's in your experience. And my experience was packaged foods. Mm-hmm. Like Pop-Tarts, cereal boxes.
You're talking about not going on a diet. You're talking about the diet we eat.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a person eats is their diet.
Yes.
And so I was thinking about how I ate out of cardboard boxes and a big tin of high C orange juice. Remember the high C juice?
Is this with that you?
Yeah, and you'd have to poke a hole in it.
Yeah.
And another hole on the other side so that it would have air could get in. And it came in a big tin.
Yep.
And at first it was grape flavored. I don't really know it. Maybe it was juice. I don't know. Probably wasn't. And then orange. And I ate Pop-Tarts for breakfast. I had Cheese Whiz sandwiches.
I think those things always said like contains 5% real juice or something. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really mean anything because even the juice itself was really bad for us. We didn't know it at the time.
No.
But anyway, the point being is that from my child point of view, that was food. There was nothing in me that awakened an instinct of the animal species going, this is not giving me the nourishment I need. I need to go out and hunt for some animal to eat.
Well, like I just alluded to, though, the labels told you that it was nourishment. Like the label said 5% real juice and would give what vitamins and minerals were in it or enriched in it.
That's right. It was fortified.
It was fortified, yeah.
So you knew that was good.
So, I mean, it looked nutrition.
Which of one of the cereals was fortified with iron? Because we did an experiment in high school where you took a magnet in a bowl of cereal and you could get the fragments of iron.
Really?
Yeah, right out of it. Yeah. Because they just dusted it with some iron fragments. So it was fortified. And I suppose your body could absorb some of that. I don't know if it needed it. I mean, we just assumed iron was good for us because it said iron on the box. But getting back to the point, as a kid, I ate the food that I liked and I judged it based upon how it tasted. Mm-hmm. But it was all sweet, like super. I was completely and totally carb addicted from a young age to the point where when my mom would make food that was, like some sort of beef thing, I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to it to touch my tongue because it didn't give me the big hit of pleasure that the sweet foods gave me. Mm-hmm. And that continued with the boxes of mac and cheese and the tuna fish casserole. You'd think, oh, well, at least you got some protein on that. But yeah, there was one tin of tuna fish in a giant casserole. Well,
really, the tuna fish casserole, what you had to be careful of was the fat in the cream soup.
Right. You used low-fat cream soup. All of those things. Do you remember in the 80s when the whole low-fat thing was going, there was some sort of a cookie. I can't remember what it was called. These little round cookies my mom would get because they were low-fat. Are
you talking the Snackwell era?
Yes, Snackwells.
That was a little more 90s.
Was it? Was that 90s?
Maybe late 80s, but I mean, those were huge. You and I ate Snackwells even.
I probably didn't eat as many. I mean, I would have eaten them, but I don't think they tasted that great, did they?
No, they did not.
I didn't question as a child what I was provided to eat. Unless I hated it, in which case I would go, no, I'm not eating that because it's vile. But what made it vile wasn't that it was bad for me or good for me. It was the experience on the tongue, the texture, the foreignness of it. Like if I wasn't used to the flavor, I could not handle it. And that set me up in my teens and 20s to be pretty unhealthy young adult. I had really bad skin. I had bad hair when I had hair. I didn't have good body composition. I was I was still lean into my teenage years, but I'm sure that I was already starting to get some of that insulin resistance developing. And I didn't even know what that was. No one would have even thought to bring it up. Where I'm headed with this is you start down the path of trying different diets because you want to lose weight or maybe even improve your health. And you're trying to do the different things that people tell you. And the whole time, my goal was, how do I do it and have all the sweet things that I like and all of the flour-based textures that I love the most, and avoid eating things that I just can't stand. So there was never a discussion, or it didn't break through my brain to think about what is actual food and what isn't food, because I still was deeply in this mode of food comes out of a box or a plastic wrapper.
Well, and if you think about it, Slim Fast was very early in our experiences.
Yeah, I did a Slim Fast phase.
Yeah. But we did so many, even as a couple, so many things where you made the protein shake or the special thing that also came out of the box, the Weight Watchers desserts that you could buy for how many points they were. And a lot of our early diet experience, as far as trying to get leaner and fitter, involved the same packaging that we were raised with.
Yeah. Well, how excited was I when I found out that whey protein was what you should consume after a weightlifting workout.
Right.
And you could get a chocolate one.
Yeah.
And then so you could have a chocolate shake. I mean, that's what Slim Fast was,
Yeah.
right? It was a chocolate or vanilla shake that replaced a meal. What could be better than that? And I don't remember what was in it, but I think the whole point of it was that it was 250 calories. Yeah. And then you would have that, and then that would replace one meal.
2 meals.
One would replace 2 meals?
Oh, one. No, you'd use it to replace 2 meals. One can, so 2 cans a day, 2 meals, and then eat a sensible meal.
To balance it out.
For dinner.
Well, when I would have a Slim Fast, I would be like, oh, I'm ready for another Slim Fast.
I don't know who felt full on those. I really don't.
It's marketing.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was we can design a food product to take the place of actual food in order to support your ongoing addiction to this substance. So now flash forward and I'm in my 50s and I go carnivore. And even when I'm starting carnivore, I'm struggling with the fat that's on the plate. Like my psychology is such that I have in the intervening years learned to like steak, but now I feel like every bite is going to cause me to have clogged arteries. And breaking through just that psychological barrier of eating the fat on the steak, even probably 6 months ago, was still like, I hope I'm right about this. So we get to this point now where I'm thinking about, I pretty much am having steak and eggs for breakfast and then a couple of steaks for a late lunch. And that's what I eat. And my paradigm has completely flipped around to where I realize how insane my diet was up to this point, that I ever thought of a Quest bar as a actual substitute for healthy food. Like, well, it's high in protein and it won't spike my blood sugar that much. Well, that's a lie. Not in fact, but a lie that it's actually food.
Yes.
Because once you start just eating steak and eggs and bacon and things that are actually made out of the material of animals, it has a completely different effect on your sense of wellness, of being nourished, of strength. Obviously, it changes your body composition because now the body is able to do what it was designed to do with proper nutrition, instead of feeding it out of a box where it has to go, this is the body going, okay, all right, we really liked how that tasted. But now that it's in the bloodstream, we got to deal with this. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think you're the pancreas. So do you have any ideas what to do with this influx of carbohydrates?
Well, I can jack up your insulin and try to get it distributed throughout the system.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Any ideas about the seed oils?
I don't even know what that is.
That's not your job
description. That's not my job description.
I'll ask the liver.
No clue what you're even talking about with the seed oil, because I know about seeds. I know about oils. I don't know about seed oils.
The liver's not too happy with it either. It's just going to kind of distribute it and hope we can burn it off as kind of an energy source.
Yeah.
And then the brain's getting it, and it's like, I'd better burn it. I have to do something with it to get it out of here. And then but the body's not coordinated in a way where it has a sudden awareness where it goes, maybe we shouldn't eat these things. We should eat some other things that are better for us and our systems, because the whole psychology of the cardboard box food has completely overridden all the other instinctive modes. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, me as a child would have eaten one Pop-Tart and gone, ugh.
What is this?
And gone outside, thrown a rock at a squirrel, skinned it, and eaten it. But I didn't do that. I didn't go feral because it was just enough energy and just enough nutrition to keep me growing and keep me alive. But the whole time, the metabolism's cooking in a way that it really isn't meant to do. It's not optimal. I know that I think Dr. Barry's talked about potatoes and beets and broccoli as starvation foods. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we are designed to eat when there's no meat.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious to me from my current perspective that that's the case. I can't defend it scientifically. I'm not going to try to, and that's not really what we do here on this channel. Some of those are delicious. Mm-hmm. The potatoes really can give you that sort of really satisfied rush that comes from eating starchy foods. Mm-hmm. So you can see how there was still a evolutionary key built in or lock built in that when these are available in season, that yeah, I'll eat those. I'll take that. But of course, they wouldn't have been a potato the size of my head either. They would have been probably something very small that you would find in small handfuls.
Yeah.
Until we figured out how to cultivate things. Mm-hmm. So I just have been thinking so much about the perspective of what is food and what isn't food, and how you just need one generation to eat out of a cardboard box and they can totally forget what actual nutrition is. It's insane to me.
When you were in your period of beef aversion, mm-hmm. was it then this knowledge, this paradigm about the proper human diet that just kept you going through that and eating the beef that you couldn't stand?
Yes, it was faith in the intellectual concept of it. Mm-hmm. My body was not wanting beef. Or my palate wasn't wanting beef. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. Because now I just want to eat steak after steak.
It'd be interesting to see what you could actually eat, but I don't want to waste the meat. That's the issue, is I don't want to cook up 5 steaks for you.
Oh, I couldn't eat 5.
And see what happens.
Obviously, it depends on how much they weigh.
Yeah.
But eating 2 10-ounce steaks is easy. Could I eat 30 ounces of steak? I don't know. I feel pretty hungry right now. It's 1:20 p.m. on Saturday, and I ate it around 8 a.m. I had 1 steak and 3 eggs. Probably should have had a few more eggs. And I ate it, and because I was watching YouTubes and stuff, so I wasn't really thinking a whole lot about it. But yeah, probably under 8. I am currently losing weight on this current plan of basically 3 steaks and a bunch of eggs every day. No bacon. We did have some pork the other day because you wanted to change. I ate that.
Yep.
I want to believe in this idea of satiety telling you what you need. Maybe I'll get there. Maybe at some day it'll click into where I feel like I can intuitively know what I should eat.
We had talked on our last live how I've shortened my eating window again because I had gone through the whole priming phase where I was eating 3 meals a day, and then and quite large meals. And then I sort of backed off priming per se, where I was eating about 2 meals a day. But I was starting it early in the morning. I was doing sort of the Bella eat breakfast and then have your coffee type thing. So I was eating breakfast pretty early on. But now I've been wanting to keep my blood sugar window smaller, like when I'm consuming things a little smaller. And I said to you, but this is so hard because am I just going to be under eating by making that window smaller? But then I heard what had come out of my mouth and I said, well, but I guess if I get ravenous again, I will go back to priming and just
eat more.
So I think for me, my cues are pretty decent. However, my psychology has not caught up to that, where I think it's hard when really, once you get in touch with those signals, it's kind of easy. I don't know. Maybe we're both overcomplicating the satiety thing.
Well, I know that I complicated it for keeping artificial sweeteners in my diet and then getting rid of them and then bringing them back and then get rid of them and then bringing them back. I think that the answer is to eliminate it entirely, permanently. And that's a hard, and this gets back to our first conversation about the kid who ate out of the Pop-Tarts because the sugar was one of the great pleasures of the day.
Yeah.
Every time I got to eat it, it was one of those things that just made the day worth living, which is insane. Clearly way out of proportion to what it was, especially since it doesn't last. Once you've done eating it, you're not experiencing the pleasure of it anymore. So it's very transitory. But I think that's the insidious nature of sweet, is it makes you want more sweet.
Yes.
And it doesn't care about what's rational. And your rational mind can recognize this conflict and lose.
They're beginning to theorize or hypothesize that it is the sweet, and especially fructose, that triggers us to want to forage and eat more. So that when those sweeter foods were available, usually at the end of summer before a cold season, we would eat a lot.
And put on some fat.
And put on some fat to carry us through the lean times.
Which would have been a transitory increase in insulin and probably triglycerides.
Yeah.
But it would have lasted for that short few weeks, and then you go into the long winter.
But that goes to metabolic flexibility, I think. I mean, under that type of a system, the flexibility doesn't get broken.
Yeah, because you don't have an endless decades and decades of sugar available. It's only seasonal.
Yeah.
So that makes some sense.
Yeah.
But once you break out of that and you do have sugar available 24/7, certain individuals are really going to struggle with being able to balance their palate.
Well, and I was just going to say, and it's not only sugar and grains, which are naturally cause that brain chemistry and whatever else happens in our bodies. But then when the food's engineered to be hyper palatable, I mean, that's a whole different story.
Right. I was not aware that all of the, the cigarette company chemists went over to food to make those as addictive as possible. That was news to me. I haven't researched it independently to find out the truth of it, but it sounds very believable based upon how addictive the food is.
Yeah.
But the only way to be shed of an addiction is to not expose yourself to the stimulant over and over and over and over and over again. And that's hard. That's hard to give up when so much of speaking of me, so much of my memories, positive associations with holidays and certain events and times of year and types of things, activities, have those foods attached to them.
But I will say we're in fall right now, and you were a pumpkin spice mocha. Was that it?
Yeah, it was definitely a modified drink at Starbucks, but I haven't even really given it a whole lot of thought this year.
That's what I was going to say. Is I don't think you have.
Yeah.
You certainly haven't brought it up, or
no.
I haven't heard you longing for it. So that's been interesting.
No, I think that I might have had it once last fall. I think you did. I don't even remember.
I think you had it once.
But I think what happened was by that point I was carnivore. I'd been doing very low carb and not a lot of sugar. And I tasted it and I was like, yeah, this is very fake flavor. Yeah. It didn't taste good.
Yep.
So I kind of got past that. It is interesting though. You go carnivore and you eliminate these things and then you re-expose yourself to certain foods and they taste very strange.
Yeah.
Compared to real food.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the palate does adapt. My hope is that my palate continues to adapt and I can make this break that will help me continue to heal and help my satiety signals normalize.
What break?
From sweet.
Oh, complete.
From sweetness. The devil of sweetness. It's hard. It's hard to conceive of never having the occasional Diet Coke or having the occasional ice cream. Why is it hard? What's at the root of that being hard? Because there's nothing objectively necessary about ever consuming them.
Well, you bring up the physical addiction, and then you brought up the memories as well. So there's also sort of that psychological addiction or emotional addiction where we've talked about being mostly meat, and part of that is leaving wiggle room for those holidays.
Yeah.
And last year I feel like we did awesome. Not every carnivore would agree, but your carnivore card's been gone a long time. I never got mine. Where we ate on Thanksgiving, we ate our normal Thanksgiving food. And that was it. We didn't have it beyond that. I didn't make enough for leftovers. Anything that was left over, we threw in the freezer for a later date and we never ate it. And we did the same thing with Christmas. We had Christmas Eve and Christmas Day were our days where we were off plan, and not crazy off plan either, just a little off plan. And we went back to our normal eating. So point being, psychologically, even though we didn't succumb to any addictions based on those holiday splurges, psychologically, it's very hard to contemplate those holidays without those foods.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't care anything about seeing any of those people. That's not true. That was a joke.
Well,
you have to understand my sense of humor. Joke.
I was going to say, we do see people on Thanksgiving, but on Christmas we don't. It's just the three of us. Yeah.
But it is about family. And unfortunately, celebratory foods are part of those traditions. And once you've made a break from those foods, the celebrations have to be reformulated.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know what that looks like. And I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I feel a little, I don't know, almost like mourning a bit that whole part of the life experience. But I want to think in terms of what is appropriate for me as a human animal, for my health and my long-term mental health, is to be as fit as I can be.
Yeah.
And derive energy from great energy sources and building blocks for my tissues from the best building blocks for my tissues.
Yeah.
And not throw a monkey wrench into the works every once in a while that may have longer lasting consequences than just one night of indigestion that I can't see.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think if we are super metabolically flexible, you could have those exposures and it wouldn't be as disruptive. But I don't know if that's true for everybody. I don't know if it's true for me.
Well, I don't know. We've talked about in our last live a few issues that are still lingering for us. So that's, to me, an indication that maybe we aren't as metabolically flexible as we'd like to be.
I think that's probably the case.
And again, we've come a long way.
And you were just saying that Dr. Boz was talking about you have that cheat and your liver's now got these cells for another however many months until they're regenerated. Yeah,
your cells in your liver and your pancreas have a set point at that moment. And so when they replicate, let's say the pancreas says, oh, I need to make 20 units of insulin, units being generic. I need to make 20 units of insulin because this person just had ice cream. And I need 20 units of insulin to manage that. Well, then when those cells replicate, those beta cells in the pancreas, those new cells feel, I'm going to anthropomorphize them, but they need to be able to buffer the 20 unit of insulin. They need to be able to produce that. So it takes a while for those cells to shift, and it requires a certain level of, I want to say austerity.
Adherence,
yeah.
Of not doing that exposure for a long period of time in order for those to change their...
So the cells learn that you don't need 20 units now. Now you peak out at 16 units.
Where else in the body is that happening?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it just seems like every time you throw in a bunch of crap into the system, it has downstream consequences that may be silent, but which have implications for longer term health, or just slowing down the rate of healing, weight loss, body recomp, hormone building, all of those processes that are happening that you don't feel happening, are just delayed or reduced. So a bit of a pensive mood today.
Yes.
But it was important for me to really come around to understanding that I'm an animal that has a certain kind of food that it needs. When I have it in abundance and I don't have all of the other stuff that's really not appropriate, I feel way better, which is at the same time at odds with the top level psychology that drives what I want to eat. And we call that a craving.
And what you were conditioned.
Yeah.
Going back to the...
Now, all this said, I'm not battling right now with a craving. Like, I can't stand not having ice cream today. It's not that level.
No.
It's much more of just contemplating, do I want to abandon every last bit of stevia that's in my life? Is really, really what's that question. I have done that. I've tightened things down and gotten rid of it. And then it creeps back because that's what it does.